Hey, She-Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays Today podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lauryn Brunslick, and today is a very special episode.
Woohoo!
Not because Jesus has risen, although he has. Praise God, it's Easter.
We got Jesus to be on the podcast, you guys.
That's the first dude.
It's Jesus.
We're not even going to go into the soapbox as to whether Jesus would appreciate being called a male, but I don't know.
I've heard it described as he's the perfect symbol and understanding because he is male body, but very feminine energy.
I don't know why that resonated in your head.
No, I mean, but think about that. Think of Jesus' entire life was very, or especially his death, was very passive. Like, it's not the typical male energy to allow yourself to be killed.
Why didn't God decide it to be like a boss-ass female then? I know the answer to that.
I've heard different theories, but yeah.
Okay, well, anyways. No, today is a special episode because we do have the first boy on.
Other than me, I have to keep saying that. I'm Kirby, by the way. Thanks for introducing me.
You've been on enough.
People should know.
They should know. This is Kirby. He's my co-host. So with this, today we have Stu and Hillary Bittman. And I mean, we kind of cheated. We didn't just have a boy. We don't really have that scheduled yet. And it's not that I'm opposed, but a lot of what I kind of wanted to do was start having conversations with other married couples about that work together. Because Curb and I work together.
You do?
We do everything together.
No, and I think it's a good transition period of there was a period of the podcast where we talked about all female, 4 females. But I think as we get further,
thank you,
down the road, it's transitioned into what do people need. The audience has grown a little bit, and this is just the natural progression of what I think the listeners and what you want to talk about right now.
Yeah.
And then,
because reminder, it's my damn podcast, and we talk about what I want to talk about.
And then, as you need, or as the need arises, having a solo male guest on will happen. But it's
absolutely.
Just it doesn't feel necessary at the moment.
Well, what keeps happening is for instance, our next male guest, who I'm not going to tell you who, but he's very salty. He's the second male. We'll just say that, not the first. I was like, yeah, I want that episode. Oh, but I want to know his and his wife's relationship. I want to talk to them. And then the same thing's happening with David Fletcher. I'm like, yeah, I want David on for sure. But I want to talk to David about him and Nancy. And so it just kind of keeps it'll happen. It'll happen. But right now, again, it's my podcast and it's what I'm in the mood to do of I just want to have real conversations with other powerful couples. Mm-hmm. And I don't even mean powerful and dominating, because I mean, Stu and Hillary are powerful. You just hear them and their relationship and the wisdom.
And they've done so much interesting stuff and impacted so many people's lives.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Cool.
The cat is out of the bag. Jesus is out of the tomb.
I thought you were going to say Jesus is out of the bag. It's
No, I transitioned. I created my own Easter pun.
Very punny.
Yep. So, without further ado, you should read the bio.
Okay, so I will read their bio, and this is probably a condensation and way less than even the things that they've done. They've both done such amazing things, but here we go. So, Stu and Hillary Bittman are published authors, international public speakers, and workshop leaders, healers, coaches, spiritual leaders, and peaceful warriors. Coming from an eclectic and extensive background of healing and spiritual traditions, they have inspired people all over the world with their practical message of hope and healing. For over 30 years, the Bittmans have lived their mission to awaken the awareness of oneness between the spirit and the spiritual and the physical. They operated Safe Haven Chiropractic, a healing center based on donations only for 24 years. Thousands of individuals and families were given the opportunity to embrace their gifts, pursue their dreams, and find the peace and wholeness that resides within all of us. Stu and Hillary travel the world teaching the principles of life and have participated in 7 chiropractic missions in Central America, bringing those principles to manifestation for literally hundreds of thousands of people.
And they're amazing.
They really are amazing. And he talks a little bit about the mission work in the episode, which is cool.
And we talk about the box on the wall.
Mm-hmm. Which is scary, but very interesting.
Yeah, I'm too controlling.
Yeah. I don't think we would be implementing that anytime soon. We have to work through some of our own issues.
I will rephrase that. At this point in my life, I don't think that my personality in that would work well, but I am open to possibilities of change.
I love it.
I am curious if there are any box on the wall chiropractors still functioning. Not functioning, like still practicing.
I would think so.
It's gotta be.
I mean, there's been examples of like restaurants and stuff that have used it, and coffee shops and stuff.
Oh, where's a coffee shop?
Well, not around here, but like in a major city. I feel like I read a news article about one. It was probably in like Seattle or something like that. And I don't know if they're still going. That's the hard part. But I think here's the thing, is I think you have to, if you're going to do it, I think you have to be in a mental place where you aren't measuring it against a metric. Like, I don't think you can go like, we're going to do box on the wall, and also our goal is to have $200,000 of profit this year.
You know, those coffee mofos, chiropractors get a bad rap all the time for like not charging what they should for, like, you're devaluing chiropractic. You know who's not devaluing their product? Starbucks.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anything, but here I am with a very strong opinion about it.
What? This is such a surprise from you.
Oh my God.
Hot take from Lauryn. I can't believe it.
Me over here with 0% agreeableness from Kirby sent me a damn personality test 2 weeks ago and was like, oh, I'm pretty sure it was a sneaky way to find out if I'm a narcissist. Just so we're clear, I think that was why
There's no way I did it.
So he's like, I paid for you to do this personality test. I'd be really interested in your results. And so it's sat in my inbox for a couple weeks. Don't worry, I'm getting back to Starbucks. And I finally got around to do it. And this damn thing told me I am 0 percentile for agreeableness. Mm-hmm. 4th percentile for compassion. What was the other 0%? It was something that like you really want to be high in, like likability or something like that.
No, it was something like, it wasn't empathy, but it was something.
No, empathy, compassion, I got 4%.
Okay.
I was 94% neuroticism.
Yep. Which
Doesn't
is like
like
volatility of emotion.
Yeah. So anyways, back to Starbucks. I don't know anything about coffee profitability, but there is no way they need to be charging $9 for my cold brew.
No, but I mean, they're a public corporation.
Box on the wall.
You want Starbucks to go box on the wall?
No, I'm just saying, if it was box on the wall, I don't think a single person would be slipping a 10Z in there.
Probably not.
No, but like $5.
Yeah, I could see that. But I mean, they've figured out their whole model, and their whole brand is to be kind of signaling that you have money and that you're part of their tribe. So they set it up in a very different way than a box on the wall ethos.
Right. Anyways, I'm just saying I'd be very interested in a box on the wall coffee shop.
Maybe you should start one. You're not busy.
Don't tempt me. I'm a 3. Did we get into the Enneagram with them?
No, we didn't. I had it on the list of questions, but it's one of those things of I almost wish with them.
They're too zen. They're too zen for me. Okay, so rule number 1 of Enneagram, do not diagnose other people of their Enneagram types. But I do that all the time. Mm-hmm. I can't with them.
No, I think whatever they are, they're so healthy in it that as you get healthier in any one, you start to like bring in your shadow side. You start to get that kind of under control, and more beauty comes out of you. I think that's what one of the Enneagram books said of like, if you're extremely healthy in any of these, it's going to look generous and peaceful and thoughtful and patient. Like,
that's why it's so hard for people to determine mine.
Yeah, they're just like, man, I just can't. God, she's just so awesome at all the things. She's the best of all numbers.
So agreeable. Whatever.
So compassionate.
I I don't know. All right. Anyways, let's get on to the peaceful part of the podcast. So we don't need to pray.
Oh yeah,
we sprung that on them.
Yeah, remember when you hear this prayer, this podcast is free, and you are getting like full on Hillary Bittman.
Yeah,
prayer.
She probably should have billed us for that.
Yeah. This
she would have sent a box on the wall invoice.
We should, honestly, we could donate to their cause and stuff. Find out.
Well, now we're absolutely going to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So without further ado, the very first date night. Oh, okay. Actually, that's not true.
Because we did one
with
Mo and Tamara.
Episode number 100 was our first date night. So this is actually our second date night. So I say first, but
Which, by the way, 2 for 2 on amazing people for date night.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be hard to keep this pace up.
Our podcast friends are way cooler than our real friends.
I hope they're not listening.
They don't. And that was a joke to the people who are. I'm just kidding. You're awesome. We love you. Thanks for going to Layman's with us. Okay. So without further ado, date night number 2, the first boy on the podcast, Stu and Hillary Bittman.
Enjoy.
Okay, well, I really haven't figured out any better way than introducing people than just saying welcome to the She Slays the Day podcast, you two.
All right. Sounds good.
Now, before every episode, I do some sort of like a prayer. The prayers have kind of gotten weirder and more spiritual and more meditative, but I did not warn you at all for this. But Stu, would you be willing to open up, or Hillary, either one of you, would you be willing to open us up in just a prayer to get our minds right for this conversation?
I think I could handle that.
Awesome.
So just to be clear though, like you don't want it. My prayers are inclusive, and I don't.
You do you, boo. That sounds great.
All right.
Okay, go for it.
Let's do it.
Just go for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we all got quiet.
Yeah. So let's get quiet. Let's go to the quiet, the stillness, the bigness within. Closing our eyes, taking a breath, dropping into our hearts, where the God of our own knowing lives, by whatever name we call it. But we know it as love. We define it as love. And feeling that expansion of love within us, connecting us to our biggest, best self, bringing us peace, our heart's wisdom available to us. Standing firmly in love, foundation of love, fully aligned with love right now. And for this, we are so grateful. And so it is. Aho.
So it is.
Thank you. That was perfect. Yeah, no, that, like I said, my,
So is this for just us, or was this for everybody?
That's for everyone.
For everyone.
Okay.
Everyone just heard that, Hillary. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Everyone got it.
Okay,
That's
so
pretty good for a first time ever.
I love it. I love it. So you guys are officially, in 2022, so the podcast has been around for almost 3 years. It'll be like 3 years very quickly. And I haven't had a single boy on. And so
Other than me, I've done some guest stuff, but I don't count. I'm just the husband.
He doesn't count. And so when we were looking at 2022, it really just didn't feel authentic to be excluding based, like it kind of like where the podcast was going and the audience and stuff, like it just didn't feel congruent anymore. And so one of the things that we wanted to start doing was we're starting kind of like a mini series within the podcast that I've decided to name Date Night. I didn't ask Kirby if he
I like it.
So this is our first ever date night, where we just wanted to sit down and kind of like if we were out for dinner together, just two couples that are on this path of really focusing on putting our marriage first, but also trying to make an impact, hopefully get paid for that impact from time to time. And like, we know the struggles, and sometimes we kind of feel like we're on this lonely island of like, you know, we love each other, and then, but we're parents, and then we're coworkers, and we're this. And so like, we just wanted to start inviting people that we look to, that we were, you know, kind of blessed to have met or know of in some situation, and just kind of sit down and talk, and like two couples. So welcome to the first date night.
I love it. Yeah.
We haven't had a date in a while, so
You know.
Perfect.
Or we have a date every day.
That's true.
Actually. So
I like that. I like that way of thinking of it better.
So yeah, so starting it out, kind of share with people who don't know you two, kind of like what the short end of the story, because I'm sure this could be like 3 hours.
So much, yeah.
Yes.
So like, how did you two come to be? How did you two come to work together? And catch us up.
oh, go for it, Stu.
Yeah, two 65-year-olds. That could take a really long time. Let's see, real quick version. Hillary was always into spirituality on some level. I wasn't. I was left brain scientist. We met in the mid-70s. I was 6.
This is the quick version, remember?
She is considerably older. Anyway. I used to make fun of her for that kind of thing, etc. I went to chiropractic school, still really not having spiritual grounding. It was in chiropractic that I found finally what Hillary apparently always saw in me. And then we started working together, and it ended up, we did everything together. We practiced for 24 years together. Then we went into ministry, and we did that together. We were co-ministers.
But even when we raised our daughter, she was homeschooled. So we were all together. We went on, chiropractic mission trips, or we went to gatherings, Sigafoods gatherings, and we all went as a family. So we kind of all grew up doing everything together.
Yeah, well, thank you. That sped it up considerably.
So really, you guys have been working together, like just being partners in everything for decades. Like
pretty
there was
much.
Leaving, or like one person working on one part of their career and the other. It's always been really intimately connected.
No, I mean, I've sometimes, I am more of the public speaker, so I tend to travel sometimes without her, especially for a bunch of years. We had a dog that we couldn't leave at home. But even the stuff I do on my own, going to seminars, she's always part of it. She's always reading my notes. So
making them better.
So yeah. So I'd say on every level, you can't really separate the two of us on this journey. We cannot. Yeah.
So cool. Well,
yeah, and it has been cool.
One of the things I was curious about is, Lauryn talks to a lot of chiropractors on the show, but with you guys also having the experience of running a church, I found that really fascinating, and I wanted to just hear more about that. What was that church like? Your opening prayer was so inclusive, and I love how you talk about finding God in whatever language we call that. What was the structure of your church? Was that a Unitarian? Was that a Christian? Was that a all faith? What was that like?
It's a good question. It was actually a unity center.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know anything about unity. It's often confused with Unitarian. It's called New Thought. I don't know if you've heard of Religious Science or Centers for Spiritual Living. So it is a spiritual movement. It's definitely more spiritual than religious. It has definitely Christian undertones, because the people who founded it were definitely more traditional. But again, it's all metaphysical. It's all it's all much more inclusive. And even though the Bible is considered the textbook, again, it's all looked at metaphysically and kind of how it applies to us in our lives. And it's chiropractic. It's
Exactly.
that's the main thing. The principles, unity is based on 5 principles. Chiropractic is based on 33. And for me, that's only because Stevenson was a very wordy guy. It could have been.
No, I look at the 33. I'm like, I feel like this could be consolidated.
It definitely could have been like 7 or something like that. But so if you took the 33 and you distill them down, you'd probably get very close to the 5. There's one in unity about prayer and meditation, which is probably not necessarily part of chiropractic, but very much inside out, very much
all about aligning with the wisdom within you.
Yeah, and that and that divinity is within all of us, not just within all of us, but is pretty much what we are and who we are.
So you said in the beginning that you didn't like Hillary was the spiritual one. So how did this transition from you being non-spiritual and you said it happened in chiropractic school? Like, was there
not in school?
It happened a few years after. No, I was valedictorian at LACC. I still would have laughed at you about spiritual things. If you couldn't isolate it in a test tube and prove it to me, it just didn't exist.
I don't know how many years later.
So it was
5 years later,
maybe
7.
5 years after graduation. I'd already caught a glimpse of the chiropractic philosophy and idea, and the first time I heard that, it even though I didn't realize I had this big hole in my chest, it filled it. It was like something was obviously missing from all the stuff I'd believed before, even though I felt pretty secure in it. I realized that science was, just an attempt to explain things and pretty much not what you'd want to base anything on. That was a premonition. So it's actually listening to probably the first talk I ever heard about quantum physics by this guy named Dean Black, who used to teach at Parker. At Parker School and at Parker Seminar.
Yeah, obviously I don't know Dean.
He kind of disappeared, but his stuff is great. We need to resurrect it. So he was talking. So anyway, I won't tell you what he was talking about, but I had this incredible aha or revelation or whatever you want to call it. Like the entire floor disappeared under me. The entire foundation of my belief system in my life sort of disappeared, and then the next room I wandered into, because I felt lost at that point, was Sisyphus. And so that was my first opening, shall we say. And then I just explored that and read everything, went everywhere I could about the more spiritual side.
So you're 5 years into practice though. And so I had not nearly that story, but I didn't know the principles at all when I graduated. I wouldn't say I was science-based, but I was I did not use the word subluxation. Those people were weird. And about 4 or 5 years into practice, I started to switch and into a more subluxation-based practice. And that I had to transition that over months. Myself, I had to let that download kind of integrate. Yeah. And then I had to play around with explaining concepts that I was explaining one way and now I'm explaining another. And I'm okay, in my head, and how that came out didn't. So I'm picturing you being at this, because I'm assuming, Hillary, this whole time you were much more philosophical chiropractor in the practice.
No. I mean, I had this spiritual bent.
Hillary is not a licensed chiropractor.
Okay.
No way.
And I was pretty unconscious, taking that spirituality, into my life and into responsibility for what was going on, that it had to do anything with me and my feelings. So even though it was spiritual, it didn't connect to me yet.
Okay.
So our practice.
So her idea of chiropractic was what I told her.
Yep.
Okay.
We saw her coming home then from this weekend and Monday being okay, well, we got to change all of this. Can you talk about how, because that is something that a lot of people ask me, is when they start wanting to switch and like start melding the worlds of their spirituality and their belief system into what they're doing with an adjustment. Like, can you talk to us about how you integrated that into your whole life and not just like Hillary, kind of like, how are you saying you were compartmentalizing?
Well, what Stu was saying, then we started going to Sigafus gatherings.
Okay.
So that was a commitment of 4 gatherings a year, once every 3 months for like 4 days, where we were immersing ourselves in self-development practices. And while we were practicing there how to speak in this new way in front of, other chiropractors that were supporting us. It was a safe environment. So we were practicing how to speak, how to explain subluxation. What's your 2-minute, 3-minute elevator talk going to be to explain chiropractic now? But we were also working on ourselves at the same time. And I don't think the two can be separated. At least it hasn't been separated in our life, in chiropractic life. So
I have to say that I think part of me embracing, owning, embodying was actually forcing myself to say things differently. I was sharing stuff with people that I was not 1,000% convinced of myself yet, I think. But that's kind of was a Sigafus thing too, to act as if.
Mm-hmm.
and I think it helped awaken, because, I don't think it repeating things or affirmations, I don't think they necessarily like brainwash us into being different than we are. I think they just allow us to remember what we've forgotten more than that. So I think by actually walking through and forcing myself to say and do things differently, and obviously having a sense of purpose and knowing that what I was doing was bigger than what I had thought was very helpful too. But yeah, what you said was probably the key for starting on that.
We didn't put any pressure on ourselves to throw out the entire way of practice either. I mean, I hear that with a lot of, clients, that they feel like they have to just stop everything they're doing. And that's almost impossible to go forward with. So,
or I'm not going to change anything because they won't like the change and all. So I got to tell you that I had about 8 people when we retired that were with us from the very beginning.
Oh, wow.
And so, and there would have been a lot more, but we live in a town where half the people leave every year. So, we have to throw in some excuses there when we talk about numbers. We are in chiropractic, aren't we? But
as you did that transition, did you lose people who went like, whoa, you're going woo-woo and I'm not woo-woo and I'm out? Or did people come along with the ride?
I imagine we did, because we never really know why we lose people, do we?
That's
but
cool.
I don't think we lost that many because we felt so right about it. I think that's always the key too. If it felt right to me and I knew everything I was doing was for their benefit as well, then yeah. So I was going to say the people who were with us at the end, I mean, they experienced half-hour visits with me at the beginning with like multiple therapies and stuff. I
remember that.
I can't even tell you what I did for half an hour. I wish I had films. It's mind-boggling to me. And then towards the end, they're getting a minute and a half. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing. I know people find that hard to believe, but when we feel right about it, I think most people were okay with it, right?
But also what I loved about like your health talks, like before folks came in, they had to come to a health talk, or just our whole education process along the way. Like you never made anybody feel like what they were doing was wrong, because that was the old way. And now we're into this new way. You know how you start like a smoker who stops smoking. Well, the smokers are wrong and they're made to feel ashamed or whatever. We never did that. You never did that with people. You just explained what you had learned, and you allowed them to kind of mull it over. It's like, doesn't that make sense to you? Think about it. And, wouldn't you rather have this new way of being, thinking about chiropractic, whatever, than the old way? And they made their own decisions. So when people make their own decisions, they always feel good about it.
Well, it was hard for me to judge them when I had been on the same path myself.
There's almost
right?
a beauty in the fact that you were from the other side, if there are sides,
and you transition so you can see it from both of those perspectives instead of just being an indoctrinated true believer from birth who goes like, don't, you're outside.
Yeah, and somehow maybe even more meaningful. Like Sigafus went to national, and I went to LACC. It's like when you discover something that's so different and it fills you, it might be even more meaningful than just having grown up with it or something. Because I think people like me tended to question it more. So when you arrive at it and it feels so right, it's like, wow, it's huge.
So I want to ask, I want to talk about the like yin and yang, masculine, feminine energy of relationship and running a business. So, Hillary, I haven't gotten to spend time with you, but like Stu, when we were in Sedona, like I feel like so much of running a business, like when you're the doctor and you're the one who's like bringing home the income, there's just all these logistics and things like that, and it really pushes me into a much more masculine energy state. And then Kirby is my support. He's the non-licensed chiropractor who runs the business and is like there for our kids, making sure that, while I'm adjusting and things like that. And so then that kind of forces him into this feminine energy state. And so like, I would say, having 7-year-old and 10-year-old, one of the biggest things that we have been working on in our mid-30s and doing all of the things is trying to find that balance, because when I am in the masculine state and not embracing my feminine energy, that obviously does certain things to our relationship. And then like vice versa. Did you guys always have it really super balanced? Did you have to find that? Because you really exude that you both have this very nice balance in your marriage. Has it always been that way?
Is he shaking his head? Yes.
Hillary is shaking her head.
Balance is always easier to restore when I let you answer questions like that.
No, we did have to find our own way too, because in the beginning it was, I'm the chiropractor, from his point of view, I'm the chiropractor. I know what I want. I know what I need.
Not that I did, but
right. No, but I can relate.
But there was that perception that I was not as meaningful in the relationship of, safeguarding our practice and that kind of thing. So we definitely had to learn it, where I felt confident enough to share what I knew to be helpful, and he had to learn to accept it. And then I also had to learn how to accept, I have a big masculine streak, so I had to learn how to accept his recommendations to me. So it definitely took a while.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember. I think we worked out a lot of that already, because we have this sort of dynamic flowing back and forth, male and female energy going. Sometimes it's probably the opposite to the way it would appear, who has more of which. But as far as what Hillary was talking about, absolutely. I think I embraced the importance of her role before she did. But I always saw, I couldn't have done anything that I did without her. And I wish I remembered to say that every time I speak anywhere, because, Patsy Sigafus just passed away, and it just reminded me, she used to pack a suitcase. She used to unpack a suitcase. She used to tell him where he was going next. Hillary hasn't quite done that much.
That's not my role. But it's not my role.
So that was a pure male, female, clearly delineated thing. But somehow they worked it out. But again, he could not have had the impact he had without. There's no way he wouldn't have made it to the next gig. Because he would have to call her from the airport to find out where he was going next.
No, but now I would say very confidently, in this point of time that we would not have had as successful a Safe Haven Chiropractic Center as we did without me. And I know that for a fact, that I added my special gifts and my understanding of chiropractic and wholeness and everything else that went with it, and educating our folks. And his specialty and gift was the specific adjustment. And of course, his personality of enveloping them in love too. So we both of us had a balance of masculine and feminine within each of us that just, we went back and forth and back and forth.
And it was kind of perfect because some of the things that she did required a more masculine energy, like confronting people and stuff like that, which was not my thing at all. So, and nobody ever bothered me. Nobody, they never patched a phone call through. It was like, I was so insulated, and mostly because she could handle all that, and she could handle all that better than I could. In fact, there was a story
Kirby could definitely be coming and handling more problems for me.
Okay, good. Well,
sorry, Kirby.
Maybe you should be having a conversation with Hillary afterwards. But we had a patient who came in and consistently complained about one. Yeah, we didn't call them patients, but I've
it's easier to call them patients.
After 20 years, I still don't know another word. So, one of our folks.
We called them folks.
But you got to be careful in the singular when you call them folks. But you got to pronounce it really clearly. So this woman, how about that? She would consistently complain about one policy that we had. We were doing the box on the wall. It was a requirement to come in at least once a month to use the box on the wall. She would always push it. Hillary would confront her on it. And one time she came back and she said, I don't come here to see her. I come here to see you. And I said, you know what? You wouldn't like me nearly as much if it wasn't for her. And I was so proud of that response. That was like the best thing. It was one of those where you go home and you wish you had said something. No, man, that was
you actually said the thing you wanted.
I could not have come up with something better than that. That was perfect. And she looked at me and she never complained again.
So you guys you were a box on the wall clinic. Was it that entire time, or was this after the epiphany and the weekends? How the heck did that transition go? Bob, no longer do you have to pay me $40. You can pay me whatever you want. Really? That's just all easiest implementation ever.
That was a lot later, after we'd been on a bunch of chiropractic missions and saw the simplicity, just two, really? Yeah, I don't remember. But we saw the simplicity of just serving without any attachments. And as the years went on and we continued our work, our faith in abundance and where abundance comes from and just how the universe works and all the principles we were talking about and educating about, we just said we have to dive in and we have to say we believe them, just like everything else. So it just followed organically.
So was that a thing where you had the faith and that you felt moved to do it? Or was that kind of the saying it and doing it before you really believed it? Because personally, I'm so numbers driven and so numerically minded that I would go like, I don't know about this. Like
similarly, it was similar because we did it when it felt right, when I couldn't not do it. Okay. Just because of the feeling. But I think in the case of the box, we waited longer than we did with some other things. For one thing, I got no support from coaches, from mothers. From the only one who was okay with it was Hillary, thankfully. Everybody thought I was crazy. So, and then, but by that point in my life, if you thought I was crazy, there had to be something good about it. So that was an attractive feature.
But we were pretty strong already in our beliefs that it would work. We were still a little anxious, a little scared, a little nervous, as you are when you go to dive into something new. But we were pretty excited also that it would work and that it would just free us up so much, and we would just see unbelievable results and practice the way we wanted to practice, not excluding anybody. And it was pretty wonderful.
It was fun.
Were you guys, did you have the Unity Center at that point, or did the Unity Center come later?
Let's see. I got the vision of chiropractic in about 91. Panama Mission was 97, 90. Two Panama, the first two were 97. So it was the beginning of 98 that we started doing box. And Unity came around about 2005 or 6 or something like that.
Okay.
So that was,
okay. So yeah, because I mean, the reason I asked is because, so just a few weeks ago, this came up because there's conversations we're having as our clinic, and we're looking at growth, but like with growth and the high volume clinic, it can really just turn into like numbers really quickly, and it can become gross. And so, at church one weekend, they were talking about just how like at church, there's like 2 numbers that are reported every week, the attendance of last week and the like offering. And so the reason I asked is like, if the Unity Center came first, you were in the mindset of like, people will give. And but like, I just can picture being like, yay, we are going to allow everyone. And then like that first month where I'm counting my box of money, I'm like, it's not enough money.
Did you ever have those moments where it was scary, where like the revenue went down and you got nervous about it, or did just the universe provide and it flowed? Or
the revenue had been down plenty even before that, so I think we were at times. So no, I think
Fox was really good to us.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
We saw a lot more people on the box, so that was No, I think, again, that's one of the reasons we waited, because people asked me to hear about the box. I had heard about the box. I'd heard Reggie Gold did the box. It sounded like the greatest thing, mostly because I hated asking for money, but I realized that was a terrible reason to do the box. So when people ask me, should I do it, I automatically say no. And they say, well, how do you know? I said, well, because you're asking me. When you feel like I did, and it was after the first 2 Panama missions, we had taken care of thousands of people without any attachment to symptoms, to money, we weren't attached to anything. We didn't know if we'd ever see the person again. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. It was pure. There was no thought. There was no attachment. And I said, and a lot of people came back from these missions and said, well, this sucks, because now what do I do? It can never be like that in my practice. So fortunately, our choice was, well, maybe what was different there was us. Maybe it was our consciousness. Maybe it was our lack of fear. Maybe it was our lack of attachment to things that don't matter. And so the box was actually one of the ways that we sort of forced ourselves to do the work, so we could be in that same loving and free vibration in the practice that we were in Panama. We decided to change ourselves and to, I considered getting rid of my tables and my CA and putting in some black metal folding chairs and making it really hot and, trying to do.
Wait a minute. Wasn't Hillary kind of your CA at this point?
Yes. Well,
okay. You get out of here, lady.
I wasn't.
She wasn't included.
We had a front desk CA and we had a back office CA as well. So I guess my title was CA too, but
you were the office manager.
There we go.
Co-owner.
I was the liaison to the people's minds, to their hearts. I educated them a lot. They'd walk in and I wouldn't ask them how they were, because I wouldn't want to hear about their symptoms, but I'd ask how their consciousness was. So I again got them started thinking about their role as healer coming in for chiropractic adjustments. I would get them thinking about the life within them before they got adjusted. So
and then for years you do some Reiki on them before they got adjusted. So people were ready.
That's cool.
Wow.
They would say, they're waiting
as Hillary is.
We have just diminished Kirby tremendously.
People would be waiting in the waiting room, and I'd hear them say, my back is killing me. And I would say, I hope not. Your body believes you. My daughter would fine them $25
that cost you $25 to say something like that.
So
we threw office parties with all the money we collected for inappropriate words.
I like that a lot.
Like manipulate, treat, and
so with that style and that philosophy, did you just attract people who were already receptive to that to your office, or did you have to transition construction worker with a sore low back, and you would get them to that place where they would accept Reiki and believe that their thoughts impact?
Such a good question. That's such a good question, Kirby. Kirby, I'm going to puff you up, Kirby, for the rest of.
Thank you so. I need.
That was the best question yet. You know what? I think one of the beautiful things about how we ran things is I did not prejudge anybody. That came from being wrong, like 90% of the time. So I decided, and I know this goes against a lot of conventional practice management wisdom, but I decided to treat. Doesn't cost me a quarter if I use it generically.
And he's air quoting people. So
yes, everyone the same way, whether it was like the president of the United States, who I happened to like probably at that time, or, some homeless guy off the street. And what I found was everybody would hear my talk, which was not watered down or diluted or in any way, shape, or form. And almost everybody, especially as the years went by, was like, duh. Like, yes, that's exactly what I believe. I probably never would have said it that way, or I probably couldn't have said it that way, but that resonates at least, or yes, I thought I was coming here for this, but now I realize why I'm here. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, Kirby.
No. Honestly, that's amazing. And I love to hear that, because I do think, with our practice, there is a bit of, well, we need to attract the right people. We need to market to the right people. These other people might not get it. So let's.
How do we do that? Yeah. And how do we do that without limiting our own consciousness and what's possible, right?
See, and my answer would have added on to Stu's, that to your question would have been both. That you don't have to worry about your marketing to attract your certain clientele, because just by us being who we were and putting out that energy attracts like energy. They're going to find us. And the other people, whether they understood what was going on there or not, or they wanted to stay in their, box mentality that they came in with, they were accepted in that way. So they didn't feel like they were out of place. They might have thought we were weird. We got that a lot. They'd laugh about us, but they still felt included and safe. And they knew that they felt better after they left our office. And that was the most important thing, and that they mattered when they were in there and they got seen and heard. And so the other people that were attracted to our energy, their lives exploded and they changed if they were open to it. We just saw such dramatic changes in people. They didn't look the same maybe after 6 months or a year. So you can have both. Why would you want to exclude those people that don't want that?
Plus, they tend to exclude themselves,
That's true.
If they don't resonate. So, So I just similarly, we at some point started hugging everybody. I remember we used to have hug days as an excuse to hug everybody. And then it just morphed into everybody got a hug. And to me, I don't know a more natural thing to do after a chiropractic adjustment than a hug. So it was, but I actually would occasionally have a wife usually who would say, you know what, I'd really love my husband to come in here, but I don't think he'd be into the hug thing. And I say, you know what, I don't have to hug him. If he doesn't want to be hugged, I can refrain. And then so 99 out of 100 times in that scenario, the guy would come in and I'd adjust him, or we'd have the first visit or whatever. And I'd go to leave the room and he'd be like,
where's my hug?
Where's my hug? And I'm, I thought you didn't like hugging. Who told you that? So anyway, I thought of that when you said the gruffest, and we have a lot of gruff. We have a lot of gruff. We have a bit of a redneck vibe going here. I say that with love. And it didn't matter. Not everybody was immediately totally open and embracing of the principles we were advocating, but like Hillary said, most people started for at least 4 months, which is what we asked them to do if they wanted to get started and use the box.
Do you feel, this is like a loaded question here. Actually, I'm just going for like to try and beat Kirby's questions. So, no, I'm just kidding. Do you feel, so one of the things that I've been going through in my own personal journey as a chiropractor is just realizing how much I water it down. And, you know, I think part of that, not to make excuses for myself, is I didn't start day one full on fire with the truth, or, you know, and it took a while to get it. And then like I had this like, well, I used to be this way. And so it was almost like this embarrassment. And so I'm starting to, as I like peel these layers off, really realize all the different ways in which I kind of chicken out or water it down for patients. And then I get frustrated that they don't get it. Here's the question. Do you feel like chiropractors water it down more now than, you know, back in the Sigafoos and the Reggie Gold days? Because I think like this doesn't do us any service, or has it always been an issue of wanting to water it down?
In my experience, it hasn't changed that much. I mean, even in the Sigafoos, Reggie Gold days, there's still a minority of chiropractors who were into them or following them. So the political strength was still more medical, or whatever you want to call it, more mechanistic. So I think we've always watered it down, and a lot of us didn't know any better. A lot of us didn't know what we were watering down, you know. But
what is that human nature? Because like you said, is when you started really expressing, you know, what chiropractic was and talked about love, and like I would pay a lot of money to that box to sit in one of your health talks. But like, I imagine you didn't water it down at all. And the rough and gruff and everyone in town, you know, they kind of saw themselves in that talk. So what is it about human nature if the soul recognizes truth, and when you refuse to water it down, 99+% of people could see themselves in your message? Why is it so difficult for chiropractors to be truthful?
Because this leads into another big topic, but because we're in our heads, because we've always learned to communicate at the level of our heads, the level of our thinking, the level of our opinions, the level of our perceptions. We never, as a species, we never learned how to communicate at the level of our heart, of our common needs and desires. So I think I didn't know anything about this per se then, but apparently we were doing that. We were connecting with people at a different level. And I was, again, doing the work that we were doing at the time, was able to stay in that place myself, which helped me do that and say that. And most of the energy I got back from people, especially who had been with me for a long time, was like, it's about time. Like they were waiting, you know, they'd already felt it or something. And so it was almost like a relief to them that I was actually saying the things that were maybe congruent with what they were feeling from me already. So,
well, see, that's what I was going to say when the original question was asked, whether we, from you, Lauren, whether we water it down now more than the past. And my answer would have been no. Like, we don't have maybe Sigafooses and Reggie Golds and Dean Blacks and that, the leadership there. But in my experience, all the chiropractors I know in the whole sphere of the global world, you know, because of Stu's work with them, they're all speaking out and being strong chiropractic warriors. And then I'm realizing it's because we do the heart work with them. You know, that's our whole thrust, you know, when we're a couple. Is connecting our minds to our hearts, and everything we do comes from that place of heart and wisdom and core values. So that's it. So I think what you're saying. Well,
part of the reason it seems like it's gotten better in that regard is because
I know.
We started hanging out with the right people.
Yeah, that's who I know.
But you know, I am still aware there's other ideas in chiropractic. For sure.
As you've traveled and spoken all over the world, does there seem to be any difference in culture or background where one geography like is more receptive to your message? Is like America more in their heads and unable to connect where somewhere else is better, or is it?
That would be a good summary of it.
Well, let's see. The top would have been Panama when I didn't say a word. That was the deepest level of connection I felt with people. The people who were most accepting of my message were the people who didn't hear a word from me. And that's an interesting idea, right? So, and then I would say Europe for me has been more receptive, sort of less convinced of things already, even though a lot of the things chiropractors are convinced of around here don't give them any joy or anything, but it's still what they're convinced of. So yeah, I felt a little more openness, more, and especially to my particular approach and my message. I haven't found the same niche in my home country for the love thing. Interestingly.
What's the Jesus thing? A prophet is always hated in his homeland.
We have remembered that very often.
I no longer schedule,
let it comfort
I no
us.
longer schedule events in Lake Tahoe. I can tell you that. It's really my hometown. So I got multiple things working against me. It's bizarre, I know, but that's the way it's turned out for me. So I haven't had as much experience speaking here now, probably over the last 15 years. I'm sure people are receptive to it here. I don't want to make judgments like that and I think that people are going to be incredibly receptive to it. If chiropractors aren't more receptive to it after these last couple of years, I don't know what it's going to take. But the world, they've always been ahead of us anyway. Dickie Santo used to say, "Why are you afraid to tell the truth?" They are, they're all buying books about what you have to say. Half the bestseller list in nonfiction is always about chiropractic to me. It's like they're making millions of dollars talking about what we've had. And they don't even have a tool. They don't even have a tool to bring that into expression or bring it to life. So we have so much more to offer. And so, remember that, Lauryn. It's they want it. They're craving it. And they already know it from you, And I would be surprised if you just like came through with somebody that you haven't quite given the whole message to, who says something like "It's about time" or "Welcome," something like that.
Yeah. So a lot of your guys' work with chiropractors, is that kind of like square one of what you do, of like, okay, let's connect you with your heart and like learning to speak from your heart? Because your 12 days to your heart, like a lot, you guys talk about speaking or like your heart. Can you, if somebody has no idea what I'm talking about, can you just like talk about how you start to take a chiropractor or any human and like connect them with their heart?
I guess we start in basics: breathing, feeling what we call a renewing emotion, something that makes you feel good, empowered, peaceful, safe. And we incorporate various tools like that, different exercises, and we kind of weave it through with chiropractic philosophy and being a chiropractor, just kind of like what we've been doing here today, talking about it. So we run people through exercises so they get a taste of it, an experience of it. But it's not just about a weekend of something, really. It's people have to go home and keep at it, keep working at it, doing whatever that is, whether it's working with one of us, both of us, or doing their own thing. But it doesn't just happen from a weekend experience, unfortunately, because of the way we've been brought up. We're going to run back to our old habits of mind thinking. And
after we met Stu in Sedona, I did your guys' 12 days to the heart, and it was wonderful. And I tried to keep the practice going afterwards, both in daily meditation and then trying to find moments in life. But it always feels like inevitably the world gets in, or you're not doing it every day and it kind of slips away. Do you guys go through those same ebbs and flows, or do you have such a strong practice now that you know and you catch it before it gets too far away?
I'll put in a plug though before Stu says that's why you have coaches to keep you accountable, right?
And we tend to do that for each other.
So yeah.
But we definitely have lapses. I mean, almost every year, the summer tends to be a lapse in our what we call our bliscipline, because I don't like the word discipline at all. Reminds me of push-ups, which I've never been crazy about. And then, even though we're hiking and enjoying nature and thinking we can get away with it, we always notice a difference. So I think we've gotten so in tune with how it can be and how it usually is that when things seem a little testy or we're not as resilient, or we get back to the work a lot more quickly. But we've done so many things over the years that it doesn't always have to be the same, so it doesn't get stale or anything. But Kirby, you're not alone. I mean, we all have an unlimited capability of stopping things that work, don't we?
It's amazing how you seem to, at least personally, I forget how good I can feel. And then when I restart my practice, I'm like, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like. But then I don't know what shade comes over you that you just, it's like it exits your mind somehow.
It's so true. That's why we're, heavily into the sort of ritualizing it, structuring your life around it. Like, because a lot of people will say, well, I'll do that when I have time. And I'm like, yeah, right. Sure you will. And so a lot of my work with clients, at least at first, is to get them on some kind of regular schedule of bliscipline, because they want to do it and they've tried to do it and they've dabbled and they stop. And it sounds like a lot of things that you say, but I don't want to lose this point either. What you just described, a lot of times is why people stop coming in. It's not that they didn't get benefit. It's not that they didn't love it. It's not that they didn't love you. It's like we all make stupid choices to stop doing stuff that works.
We self-sabotage ourselves for whatever the reason is. Yeah. So
I just wanted to throw that in for those of our listeners who still beat themselves up for days when somebody leaves as if they did something wrong necessarily. Yeah, I mean, we've all gone through that. So Lauryn, believe it or not, with not watering it down can come the possibility of somebody leaving. And I always felt sad. I mean, I always felt like I was just sad or disappointed because I knew I could help them. But I also had this feeling like what I imagine a mother eagle feels when the fledglings leave the nest. It's like, I've done what I can for this person and they're never going to be the same, and they're going to fly higher than they ever could, whether they stayed forever or not, So, and knowing that I've made bad decisions as far as things, Bill Esteb once asked a huge crowd at Parker, how many people think it's an important thing to floss your teeth? And 96% of the people raise their hand. He said, okay, how many of you have ready access to dental floss? And, maybe 95% of the people raise their hand. Okay, how many of you floss every day? Yeah. And you can see everybody kind of wanted to, but it's maybe 30% of the room. And he goes, so let me get this straight. It's good for you. You have ready access to it and you don't do it. This was his response to that chiropractic thing about if they knew what I knew, they would do what I do. Well, exactly. They do exactly what I do. They stop doing things sometimes at work. So the idea is, for them, the idea is to give them the space, because a lot of them come back, obviously, and a lot of them come back seeing more importance because they didn't realize how good they were feeling and stuff. But just wanted to include that because that was a big one for me too.
So what does your guys' individual daily practice or discipline look like? Do you have different ones? Did you come to something together? Do you do it together, or is it separate?
Yes, and yes. We're big advocates on starting off our day, which we're together. So starting off our day in the right way, which means meditating for us because otherwise our day can get away from us. And, you wake up, you're in a bad mood, or you got things to do, or you're just not connected with each other. And there goes the whole day. So when we meditate together, we would do that before we went into the office. It might have been shorter in those days. We didn't have that much time, but it's just vital to connect. And
what else we do besides meditate?
We connect. We ask each other. Well, we share how we're feeling.
I thought you were about to say you have morning sex every day. I was like, damn, boy.
No, but
I don't like morning sex. It's too fast. So it's like
second that.
So go. The afternoon's better, or evening's better.
I was about to propose it to add something to the morning routine. And it doesn't take a lot of time. You already just covered that.
Okay, I'll just say it. We really have to connect with each other, and so we share how we're feeling. Like if you still have something on your mind, like I should have said this to patient yesterday. And, so it's eating at you, and you're making yourself wrong, and you're making yourself small, and it's going to affect how I am with him. I'm going to close myself off. So then I get to share that with him, and he gets to support me. He gets to remind me, hey,
it's nice when we find out the other has gotten up on the wrong side of the bed without having to find out. You know what I mean?
Later. Yeah.
And then we share kind of our intention for the day as far as mostly about how we're going to show up for each other. And the idea of that is like, we know we're going to disconnect on things. We know we're going to forget. We know there's going to be things that we have different perspectives and strategies on. That's virtually guaranteed. And yet, we want to establish right now that we're on the same team, and that, as things come up, we want our intention anyways to stay on the same side together and work on the thing instead of letting it get in between us. So it's like renewing our vows, just essentially every day.
So that's why I said we have a date every day. We really do make each other feel special that way, and give each other our entire focus, at least for just that time, even if we're not going to see each other for the rest of the day, or we got different things going on.
Lately, the during the day stuff has been heart math tools that Hillary started to talk about. And when we're together, we'll actually set a timer for once an hour to stop for 30 seconds. And we ask each other, it's a heart math question, where are you on the grid? In other words, like, are you in depleting emotions? Are you in regenerative emotions? Are you like in sympathetic? Are you in parasympathetic? So we just say what we're feeling. And then we do 15 seconds of heart breathing and bringing in a different feeling. If we're on the left side of the grid, the depleting side.
Which is a great chiropractic tool in the office.
Great pre-adjusting tool for sure.
Yeah. Before you go into your patient, after you've left one patient, or you wanted to tell somebody something and you didn't, and you're feeling bad, get back into your strength and power before the next adjustment. So.
And then we do things individually. I do some journaling in the morning. Sometimes and gratitude, some kind of gratitude practice. So at the end of our day, we get together again. We've done this since my daughter was 2 or 3 years old. We each take turns saying things we were grateful for today. And, nothing is not an acceptable response. So, we, the other two would just wait. We all got better and better at it. You start paying attention more during the day because you're going to have to list some things that you're grateful for. And then once we do that, we each take a turn and share something we liked about the other two. My daughter doesn't live with us anymore, so we just do this together now.
And something we liked about ourselves.
Right.
Oh, I like
One thing we like about the other person, and one thing we like about ourselves. And
yeah, specifically that day.
And then sometimes if I remember I was in a bad mood and I'm like, I don't want to participate. And Stu would just keep saying, give me one thing you liked about yourself. Nothing. and yeah, it's just a way to help and support each other and stay connected. And remember, so then he would keep asking me, and I came up with something I liked about myself. So it's a great way to recognize, there's always something to like about myself, even when I'm feeling really rotten about myself or thinking I'm worthless or whatever I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you saying that kind of, I would love your wisdom to maybe the younger marriages that, so I feel like literally 10 minutes, this is God's honest truth, 10 minutes before getting on this, I picked a fight with Kirby about the kitchen being messy a lot more lately. And I feel like, where did, like, when you're describing your morning, and it sounds like you had such beautiful boundaries around when you let the stuff, the meaningless stuff that inevitably or like soaks into running a household, running a business, making sure your child has clean underwear and brushes her teeth so she does, like did you have, like, how did you protect that and then allow the worlds to meld? Because I know you had to have fights about the dishes, right?
Well, we still do. I'm sorry to tell you, you will always have fights into your 90s. Sorry. It's
well, I don't know. I think that kind of helps to know that, like, so then how, how do you, integrate those?
But it
worlds?
changes.
Yeah,
it does
they
change.
get less serious. We realize faster and faster that this is not what we want to do, that our intention is to connect. And I think that has happened a lot more since we started doing the intention to do that in the morning. Because, but we certainly forget. We certainly get into stuff over ridiculous things. But that's another thing. It's more and more of an awareness that it's, as they say in spiritual circles, it's never about what it's about. Right. So, like checking in and getting under that and like, what's really going on here? We're much quicker to address that, or even not to have to address it, but to realize it ourselves if it's us, and to volunteer and to talk about it. So this stuff works,
See, our solution to that would be to, like, after we have fights like that, we'll go back when we can go back and be really honest about it. But first we have to connect heart to heart. And once we've connected heart to heart, beyond, like, what was missing for you there? What happened? What was it about? And then I reacted this way, so this was my part in it. Because we come at it, it's about both of us. It's not just ever one person, even if.
Are you guys able to diffuse each other in those situations? So, like, I just picture if Lauren's mad about the kitchen and I go, what are you really mad about? She'll go, the goddamn kitchen.
Well,
Don't make this about something else.
Yes.
Shut up. It's the kitchen.
A better question.
No, within minutes we were talking about much deeper stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
So if we were counseling you guys, Kirby, I would ask you what you thought she needed in that moment.
Oh yeah. And I that is the thing that we did.
And I like that because I'm going to throw that in his face when he tries to ask me, what is this really about? What do you think this is about?
So if, again, if obviously the intention to connect is vital to all of the, to any possibility of this happening. So that's really the thing that we work hard to embrace and remember, that no matter what's going on, we would prefer to be connected. Yeah. Right? Isn't that true? Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah. So if I'm disconnected, it's because there's some need or something missing for me, some need that's not being met. And obviously, through the dynamics of relationship, I tend to first blame that on her because she's supposed to meet all those, whether I say it or not. And, so if I am grounded, I wouldn't ask her what she needed. I say, well, it's important to you that the kitchen is clean, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah.
And Laura would go, yeah. And you're connected.
Yeah.
So sounds easy. And sometimes we do this. Sometimes we can diffuse it right off the bat because one of us grounded enough to realize what's going on. But still often we have to sort of go through the different approach.
I have a lot of little signs from all our years of fights and what I would wish we had done or I had done differently. I have a little sign in my book that I look at every day right now that's reminding me I would rather be loving and kind and respectful to Stu, no matter what I think, whether he's wrong or stupid or doing whatever that is contrary to my needs. But I remind myself again that I am responsible for the peace between us. And that's the most important thing, that I want to maintain respect and kindness and love and figure out a different way to do things. So.
And this is why the heart work is so important, because it's a place you can always go where you can remember these things, or you can sink into when you've forgotten. I think it's vital to my interpretation of turn the other cheek. Is like I'm reacting on this level of consciousness that is purely in my head and purely based on my old filters and stuff. There's another part of my consciousness around here somewhere, a much more enlightened part, a part that can see wholeness and possibilities and remember what's important to me, and that's always right here. So to be aware that I'm not where I want to be, and to know where to go that can help it, are two vital parts of all this work.
Well, and I love what you said about the check-ins throughout the day with your heart, because I find the days that are the worst is when I don't. And then I can get going down a path for hours and hours, and I'm building a mood and I'm building a narrative in my head. And that's when a lot of energy can get stored up as anger or frustration or resentment or whatever. Right. But like if you do that hourly check-in, you can catch it when you're only a few feet off center instead of miles away.
And that's, of course, something you could do when you're not together too. I mean, it's just always nice to check in with yourself about where you are.
For me, it's been really important just to continually remind myself of who I want to be, that I want to be this kinder, more loving person, because that wasn't who I was. That was my default. And so I go back to it when I don't connect in with my heart.
That was your default.
Being mean, nasty.
No. I just wanted to hear you say it.
So yeah, this is my self-worth. My whole life is to stay connected to my heart and figuring out all the ways, all the tools that I could use to stay connected to my heart, so I can be the person that I enjoy being and not have to have, regrets because I wasn't that person. Yes.
So we like to give each other lots of practice.
It's hard because I feel like when you are staying in a peaceful, communication, loving, kind, heart-centered relationship, it's not very sexy. And I'm not saying that I want to pick a fight with Kirby because that would be, but that's not the stuff you see on romance movies and things like that. And sometimes I struggle, kind of calling back to the masculine, feminine energy of Kirby definitely holds a lot more feminine energy than your average male. And it's what my true self loves. It's what my true self attracted into my life. And it's what I would choose every single minute of every day. But sometimes I'm just can't you just get jealous? Can't you just stick up for me like a alpha man? He's like, wait, you want me to punch someone? I'm like, well, not really. But if you could just get angry. Sometimes I've said to him before, I choose the Zen part of you as my partner, but sometimes what I want for my masculine male is the opposite of that, And so sometimes I struggle with that, if we're both trying to become such yin and yang, then it doesn't really allow the clashing that sometimes is the drama of passion. Or does that make sense?
It does.
Except when the kitchen's messy.
It does. But I think
that's how I do foreplay, Stu. Pick a fight about the kitchen. Maybe that's why the kitchen is always messy.
Ooh, could be.
Well, but it's not the clashing, I would say. It's like what need is getting met when, if he was that alpha male to punch the other guy in the nose. So maybe the need being met is, for you to know I matter to him, or, or that he would do anything for me. And that's really what you're looking for, but it's the strategy that you're saying would satisfy that is not a very healthy strategy.
No, I
but
agree.
There can be another strategy that can satisfy that need.
Yeah.
And it's like every time. So the more quickly we reconnect, like after we realize, it's like a possibility for makeup sex every single time. It's like to me, it's very sexy because we're establishing and reestablishing that connection, which is a very intimate thing and a very kind of vulnerable thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it builds intimacy and it's sexy. I find
it's
sexy.
Really sexy. Yeah. So keep holding that vision.
We'll keep working.
And keep the kitchen messy. You will have lots of.
We're getting a podcast and a marriage counseling session.
That's what every episode, like if you go back and listen to almost 90% of guests that are on end up turning into some sort of a personal therapy session for myself. So I joke with my listeners that really they're just, privy to my therapy.
Session.
This is all about me. There's not even really listeners. This is just all a hoax. Oh, well, we want to be super respectful of your guys' time before because your daughter is visiting, right? Surprise visit. Is that what we said?
She is. She's leaving tomorrow. Briefly, she's coming back though. So
for people who are new to hearing you speak, or just have heard you speak multiple times before, but want more of this in their life, like where can people connect with you? Do you do coaching? Like you've brought it up a couple times. Are you still doing coaching? Like how can people have more students?
More?
Yeah.
We both do coaching. I coach. Most of my coaching is for chiropractors, but I have some non-chiropractic clients because even with the chiropractors, it tends to be more personal development, heart space. Hillary is a certified in heart math as a resilience mentor. So
building resilience
mentor.
Yes.
It's getting longer all the time. It's like 4 initials. So she generally does.
Mine's more short term.
4-session over 4 weeks, kind of teaching people the heart math tools. I do a podcast called Stew on This with dashes between all the words. And
I also do personalized meditations.
That's true. Hillary does guided
chiropractors and everybody for life.
Yeah. So you'll see all the links, I think, on the.
Yep. I'll get all your links and I'll put those in the notes so people can find you.
I'm speaking at Devin Brana's event next week, which will probably already happened by the time people listen to this, wish I was coming to Mile High because I see Lauryn's on the program.
Yeah. Yep. And Kirby's going to be there.
It's awesome. I was the speaker contest winner last year, so that's why I speak there. Yes, we would love. We do it every Thursday. This is going to be in your notes too, but every Thursday at 12:30 in California. We do something called the Warrior Circle, which is a 25-minute Zoom gathering. So I think I gave you the link, but if I didn't, I will. 25 minutes. I speak for about 10 minutes. Hillary leads the guided meditation on that same theme for another 10 minutes. That's it. And we've been doing that for a couple of years since you know what.
Yeah.
And
it shall not be named.
That shall be.
We've had enough podcasts about that.
I think we actually managed to do a whole podcast without using the word. So that's
holy cow. That's
remarkable.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh gosh, anytime was fun. And I'm honored to be other than Kirby,
the first boy.
The first Y chromosome.
There we go.
podcast. All right.
Oh, thank you so much. And
And
so
I
much fun.
loved getting a glimpse at your journeys together too, and excited about what the future's going to hold for you. It's going to get better and stronger.
Mhm. Yes, what a good thing for the world.
Thank you. And we'll have to actually
Yeah.
get together more than just for podcasts sometime too. Hopefully there'll be conferences in the next years or two that we can actually sit down for a real dinner instead of a Zoom meeting.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
beautiful.
like that.
Sounds great. All right, that was great
so
fun.
much.
Thank you.
You guys are
All
good.
Much
right.
love.
From my heart to yours.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Fare
Thank
thee
you
well.
guys so much. All right. This will air
Beautiful.
Easter Sunday.
Awesome.
Easter Sunday.
Awesome.
I know. That's why I was like, no, I really want to get this in. I told my dentist, I'm like, I will cancel this. I will cancel this if you can't have me out by 1:40. So
New beginnings.
Beautiful. I look
all
forward
right, you
to it.
too.
Well, keep loving and supporting each other.
Yeah, keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Thank you. Love you
Bye.
guys. Bye.
Bye.